I don't think that to run a successful business, you need to spend $20,000 a month on ads. If you are a solo practitioner who has one location and a couple of days a week that you need to fill, there are things that you can do on the lower side that can be really effective. Those businesses who are relying on referral only kind of marketing, they can only cap their business year on year about 5 or 8% growth. For a lot of people, they think it's just a logo, but it branches into every single touch point within the business, online and offline. I've had with people crying on the phone that they've gone with this other agency and now they've got an upper letter or a TGA letter and they need my help. I once took a phone call from someone who had spent between training and marketing $135,000 to open their business, and she'd made about $5,000. One of the biggest things that I find is that if I'm a great injector, if I deliver really great results, that's enough to run a business, and it's just not true.
Welcome to Inside Aesthetics, the world's leading podcast for cosmetic practitioners and business owners.
Our podcasts are aimed at medical professionals and should not be used to make medical, legal, or financial decisions. You should get an appropriately tailored piece of advice from a professional in your country.
To show your support and stay up to date with our latest episodes, click the follow button if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you're watching our episodes on YouTube, hit the subscribe button as well as the bell icon.
If you're interested in joining our online community, being a guest on the podcast, or would like to work with us, all of our contact details are in the show notes. And now, let's jump into today's episode.
Hey guys, welcome to Inside Aesthetics, the world's leading podcast for injectors and cosmetic businesses. We are back in our studio.
Another in-person podcast. They're becoming more frequent these days. We've done a couple this week. Had one this morning. We had a bit of a disastrous start today.
Just
with
a few technical
equipment
problems.
failure with the president of Evolus on the podcast, spilling water all over my laptop, headphones not working.
Yeah.
It's all been fun and games. Nice adrenaline dump at 9 a.m. But we're back in the studio with Chloe McGrath from the Aesthetic Collective based here in Sydney. And this is, I guess, a marketing business kind of discussion. There's a lot happening in our industry, not just in Australia, but globally. And so questions that come up often are, how do I market my business? What can I do? What can't I do? How do I get cut through? What's the latest algorithm on Instagram doing? So we want to unpack all of that today with you and hopefully give our listeners some really tangible things that they can take away, implement into their practices to help get traction in this landscape, which is becoming almost more competitive by the minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in Australia, the competition is growing day by day. So there's a lot of pressure on businesses to adapt and figure out what they're going to do next.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. I want to shout out Chloe's team first of all, and yourself, because we have been working together very closely in the last, it feels like 5 minutes, but about a couple of weeks now, 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So your company, the Aesthetic Collective, probably most well known for helping aesthetic clinics with branding, marketing, social media. That's kind of your jam. Now, we as a podcast have struggled with that for years. We've had some, really good help with Andrea, our PA, and so on, but we have kind of been flying by the seat of our pants, if we're completely honest. And for many years, it was me. I was that guy doing, all of that. And this is reflective of what clinics are doing. They're trying to do it all. So first of all, thank you for helping us. We're still getting there, but it's been transformative to what we do at the podcast so far.
Oh, such a compliment. No, you guys are amazing to work with. There's a lot of WhatsApp messages that come through every single day, but no, it's really good. And my team and I are all enjoying it. So
yeah, awesome.
Great. So first of all, Chloe, before we jump into the podcast, tell us about you, your background, who you are. Did you do any training in this or did you fall into this? And obviously about your company.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my name is Chloe McGrath. I am the founder and director of the Aesthetic Collective. We have been in the industry I've been in the industry since I was 12. My first job.
Hold on.
What were you doing?
There's some legal implications here. Just back up a little bit.
We don't talk about child labour laws or anything like that. But yeah, I was actually in a clinic at 12. So
doing what?
I was digitising files. So it was 2007, for anyone who can do their math, you now know how old I am, but I was 12 and it was 2007. So we were moving from paper consents and consultation forms into digital. So I would sit at the photocopier every single day and just scan.
Do you know what? You were younger than me, but when I was a medical student, we were recruited to do the same thing in GP clinics.
God.
Yeah, same thing.
Yes, but at $10 an hour at 12, I was killing it. So while it was very dull.
Like a little entrepreneur at 12.
Absolutely. But they had just launched Fraxel. So there was a lot going on. And it was one of the most premier clinics. My mum was doing the marketing there.
Okay.
So
are you able to shout out the clinic?
It was Facial Rejuvenation Clinic,
Gary
which
Cussell.
is now,
In the
which
city.
is now Rejuvenation Clinics of Australia, back when it was on Market Street. Very long time ago.
Wow.
But yeah, so it's been 19 years in the industry and we've just seen obviously it grow, but the regulations become more and more restricted in terms of advertising and marketing. So 8 years ago, I started the Aesthetic Collective with my beautiful mum, Kate. And yeah, we only work in aesthetics. I like to think that we're the experts. We have a really great relationship with the agencies over at APRA and the TGA, so we can ask lots of questions about those regulations and just get really great, strong information for our clients.
Yeah. Can I just say, working with someone who is on the ground, who is over the regulation and the law and the cultural nuances of being in Australia has been massively helpful for us.
Totally.
It's just, we don't need to communicate. It's all telepathic. You just, which is wonderful.
Yeah. Well, we also just take a really conservative approach when it comes to regulations. Our clients really appreciate that. There are some people who are happy to push the boundaries in terms of what's okay and what's not, and they're just not really our people.
Yeah, fair enough. So what we're going to talk about today specifically is, I guess, that shift from just being a great clinician to being a great business owner from a marketing perspective, because it's not just enough to rely on your clinical skill to draw
100%.
business through your doors, particularly here in Australia where we do have all those restrictions on how you advertise. And historically, social media has been like a really big tool for people, especially new entrants into the market, to get their name out there.
Of course.
So that's what we're really going to be unpacking today. So, going through some strategies on how you start to market yourself effectively while not running afoul of any regulatory no-nos.
Yeah, I don't think we said the word, to be a brand.
Yeah.
That's kind of the key here, because no one taught me how to do that, and I'm sure they didn't teach you, David, but you work with hundreds of, clinics and individual practitioners.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
do you agree that they struggle with that? They don't even know what it is?
Some of the prescribing companies that work for our nurses, plus some of the training facilities that our doctors use and their societies, have made it really easy to learn how to inject and learn how to be a cosmetic nurse or a cosmetic doctor or even a surgeon. But there's not a lot of information about marketing or branding or just even business generally. Yep. So how to take that business to the next level. An ABN is not enough.
Okay. So if we take a step back and sort of look at the industry in 2026, like how commercially mature do you think the average clinic is today?
I think there are some really, really mature clinics out there. There are some who are scaling really well. They're actually purchasing other businesses, other existing clinics, and creating this parent brand with multiple locations. And they really have it down pat. I mean, Contour Clinics in Australia is a really great example. They're now in Brisbane. They're acquiring existing very successful clinics, putting them under the Contour Clinics brand, and succeeding quite well with it.
Rinse and repeat the same model.
Absolutely.
Protocols. It's easier once you've got it
Absolutely.
in one to in the second, third and fifth.
Exactly. Artisan clinics did it as well. But then you've got a lot of solo practitioners, which is a lot of our demographic that we work with, where they've gone, I've got a couple of days spare that I don't really want to spend in hospital. I'd love to inject. It looks fun and really rewarding. I can create an ABN, have a prescribing company take care of that side of things for me, and that's a business. So they don't really have that brand. They can't see what's next and plan because they're in the thick of it. So they're quite commercially immature. So there's a real mix.
Yeah. Do you, or presumably do you come across clinics, or maybe doctors are probably a better example, who are very much like, no, we are clinicians first. This whole social media dancing and branding, that's not for us. Do you get that attitude as well?
Yeah, for sure. But at the end of the day, it's 2026. If you want to have a really successful and, again, scalable business, we need to look at marketing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we're living in the age of the nurse and doctor entrepreneur. Do you think that it's become too easy to get into the industry without recognizing how difficult it is?
Because training on how to actually inject and treat your patients has become so readily available, and again, the scripting for nurses, buying product for both nurses and doctors is so easy now because of these really big prescribing companies like Fresh and like Juvet. It has become really easy to enter the market, but unfortunately, there isn't always a lot of business education that comes along with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I will add to that. I think it's always been easy. It hasn't It's definitely got easier. But, when I started injecting in 2008, I just opened an account with, a prescribing pharmacy in the UK, and away I went. I did 1 day of training. So I think it's always been low. And to sort of flip that on its head, people like Fresh, Juve, Instant Cosmetics, they've actually done a great job of offering training and now business and Fresh Health, etc. But, people who know nothing about business, and David's been talking about this for years, they quickly encounter severe difficulties when they actually try and open a business.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of things happening at the same time. We've got a lot of people entering the space, which increases the competition.
Yep.
Then you've got the regulatory challenges that are sort of putting handcuffs on people in terms of how they get their messaging out there. And so, plus you're trying to upskill yourself as a clinician. A lot of these people that are starting their businesses are also new to the skill set in terms of being able to perform these treatments. So you've got like 3 things happening at the same time. And I think that, these companies have done a great job, but I think none of us have been conscious of these colliding challenges that have all sort of hit us at the same time. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's exactly it. You're learning to do the job. You're learning to run the business all at the same time. And I mean, the burnout rate of that must be incredible. I get a lot of new clinics or new practitioners that I do my discovery calls with, and I've had to explain what an ABN is. Like, we're talking really bare minimum business knowledge. I mean, that a Google search, it's not necessarily skill, it's just pure knowledge. And so that to me is bit concerning.
Yeah.
But I think there's also a lot of opportunity there. I think it's absolutely fantastic that those prescribing companies have given amazing opportunity to especially women in Australia to be able to open their own business and, do something for themselves. I think it's amazing. But I have concerns about what that could be like with lost potential for some of these businesses.
And you've mentioned in the past during some of our catch-ups around some of the phone calls that you get from very distressed people in tears.
Oh my God.
They've got these debts coming in, they need clients, they know they need to spend money on marketing, but they can't afford to pay you. Like, what are those phone calls like, and how do you kind of navigate them, being obviously empathetic, but you're running a business as well?
Yeah, sometimes it's really heartbreaking, like the amount of phone calls that I've had with people crying on the phone that they've gone with this other agency and now they've got an APRA letter or a TGA letter and they need my help. I once took a phone call from someone who had spent between training and marketing $135,000 to open their business, and she'd made about $5,000.
Jeez.
And I needed to now fix that. So it's
no
a lot
pressure.
It's a lot of pressure, but again, I just think that there are ways to kind of prevent that sometimes.
To give that some context for our overseas listeners, so APRA, TJ, there are regulators and advertising regulators. And of course, if you're going to be marketing for people, you need to understand regulatory compliance and what you can and can't do. And if you're not working with a branding or a marketing company who are all over that, some of these companies are great at advertising, but not within aesthetics.
Well, that's
where people fall down, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure there's other agencies out there that can create really great branding and websites and social media that will deliver you leads, but at what risk? That's kind of my usual question. Yeah. But it depends on the risk appetite of the business owner and or practitioner with the business. Yeah, look, we have a whole service called a compliance audit that allows us to go through people's social media and websites and make sure that everything's all good. And we do that after people receive letters, those warning letters. But if you're a new clinic making that kind of mistake, I mean, TGA, their fine is usually about $34,000 and some change.
It's changed recently, right? I think, or have I got that wrong? I've heard in the last literally weeks that at least 6 people have been done for advertising toxins. And it's not. It used to be a lower fine, so the barrier to risking that punishment wasn't so scary.
Again, risk
now
appetite.
I think it's changed. I don't quote me on that, but I think it has gone up recently.
Well, it's a lot easier to catch people now because of AI. Like I've heard that there are certain software systems out there that regulators now have that allow them to just scan, websites
absolutely.
instantly. They can historically see what was there that's not there anymore. So it's not just a matter of, maybe they'll catch me, maybe they won't. It's like, well, now the technology is so sophisticated that it's really only a matter of time.
It's a matter of when.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about statistics, because I know in some of the conversations we had leading up to this discussion, you had some facts and figures around, what is really driving clinic growth, where are people looking to find information about injectors, how successful marketing is. So are you able to maybe just unpack that a little bit for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So we know that those clinics who are relying 100% on word of mouth, which is something that I hear a lot. During my discovery calls, I ask, so how are people currently coming across you? How are they finding your business? And I hear a lot of word of mouth, which is amazing, but unfortunately it's really slow. We know that. So those businesses who are relying on referral only kind of marketing, they can only cap their business year on year about 5 or 8% growth. So it's quite limited compared to what you could be doing with proper marketing that is relying on social media, SEO, ads and things like that.
Yeah, it's almost difficult sometimes to know the accuracy of all these data. I know that you guys have got, credible sources where you get it from, but I mean, because there's so many different ways now someone can come into contact with you or your brand. So they might walk past your clinic, for example, then, because of geofencing or the way that your phone tracks you now, it'll send you an ad for that clinic. Then you might hear about it from a friend. And so what is actually the genesis point of that contact? And I don't know whether we really know what it is. It might be, a number of factors before they actually decide to walk in. So how do we actually kind of track the accuracy of that data? Or is it just not possible to do because it's so multifaceted now?
It can be really difficult. I know that a lot of our clients in particular are asking their customers or their patients that are coming in for consultations, how did you find us? A lot of people, and this is forever, say Google, which is fantastic but inaccurate. So we know that patients will Google for your phone number when they've decided, okay, yeah, I want to go see these guys, but that's not necessarily where they first saw you. So we know from Google in particular that healthcare practitioners are looking at 7 to 10 touch points before a booking is made. So being able to analyze what those touch points were can be really hard, but then being able to figure out which of those touch points was the final trigger is, almost impossible. But that shows that we need to be in a couple of different places. We can't be relying on one source of marketing, but that we need to be really consistent in what we're doing.
It's no silver bullet.
No, absolutely not. There's a couple of bullets that we have to use and then, try pick which one.
And then we've got ChatGPT. We were talking to, our good friend Rick O'Neill from, Look, Touch and Feel over in the UK. And he was saying that now we've got AI, we've got ChatGPT. And I think ChatGPT crawls Google and, the other search engines, but that seems to be what people are using now. Has that kind of impacted the way you do things at all, like AI?
It hasn't really impacted us yet, but we're planning on it having some impact shortly. So we are trying to come up with those strategies to combat that and to lean into it where we can. But again, just making sure that everything is nice and compliant.
Do you encounter when you're working with clinics for the first time that they've got some beliefs or ideas about branding or marketing that are kind of false or just completely incorrect from the get-go? So do you have to do a lot of educating about why they're working with you?
Yeah, absolutely. We get some people who have Googled stuff. Their kid has said things, their receptionist has also said things. So we are having to combat some of the myths and whatnot. But one of the biggest things that I find is that if I'm a great injector, if I deliver really great results, that's enough to run a business, and it's just not true. Another thing that we really struggle with is the amount of content that people are happy to put out on behalf of their brand on a weekly or a monthly basis. They're worried that it's going to come off spammy, it's going to be too much, whatever that looks like. But again, 7 to 10 touch points. We need to be making sure that we're out there all the time. But again, the competition is increasing. So we're competing to be heard amongst all these other clinics. So I find that some people are wanting to be a bit conservative in how much we're putting out on behalf of the brand across social media or whatever. You need to be a bit more aggressive.
Yeah.
But what is that line where it crosses into being content for content's sake, not getting the engagement, which then can lead to you being punished by the algorithm because it just sees it as spam. So how do we find that? I guess there's like quality, right? There's a quality of the content that you're putting out. And then how much, and you're just spamming people's feeds with stuff.
Well, I kind of look at the size of the business and the goals for growth of the business before I make a recommendation for how much content we should be putting out there. So especially when I talk to nurses, but doctors as well, when I have a discovery call with them, I ask them, what is your plan for the business? Is it just you? And if it's just you, are you wanting to be 5 days a week full-time in clinic, or are we hiring someone? What's kind of your plan? A lot of nurses will say, I want to do maybe 2 or 3 days because I want to keep working in the hospital. It's nice and consistent. And I totally get that. So we take a bit of a slower approach. We don't put out as much content for them because we can't manage too much growth. If they have 1,000 people call tomorrow and say, I need a booking straight away, they can't service that. So it's about managing that for them. So we have a couple of strategies depending on what the answer to that kind of question is.
Yeah, wheeling back to branding just for a sec. Presumably, a clinic or an individual injector needs to understand who they are. What do I want people to think of me? What do I want to showcase? What's my look? What's my image? All of that before you can start thinking about how often am I posting.
Yeah, for sure.
So how do you do that? How do you sit someone down in your first consultation and say, okay, who are you? Tell me what you want people to perceive you as. How do you do that?
Yeah, for sure. So sometimes it's a bit of a hard conversation because, I mean, especially as Australians, we're not really super boastful. Getting people to answer the question of who are you and why should I come to you? It can be like, you know, getting blood out of a stone because they don't want to say, I'm the best. I'm really good at this. I'm really good at that. So it can be a bit hard, and we do try to kind of coax it out of them really slowly and gently because it's just a bit abnormal to them.
Yeah.
So it can be quite a process.
Yeah. I mean, look, a lot of people come from hospital or GP, wherever, and they were just a nurse, a doctor, a cog in a big machine.
Absolutely.
So they kind of don't have this self-image of being the guy or the girl. And so how do you get them to be more confident and to understand, no, they're coming for you, not just because you're a nurse?
Yeah, absolutely. So we try to work with them about who you are as a practitioner. And again, in Australia, it can be a bit hard to talk about what you want to do for your patients, what you like to deliver. We can't talk about wanting to, you know, give people more confidence and things like that. So it can be a little bit hard, but we talk about, you know, the love of education and the appreciation for ongoing education, the appreciation for safety and wanting to be really careful with how we deliver treatments and results to our patients and things like that. So we try to whittle it down, but again, at the end of the day, we have to, you know, make sure that we're meeting regulations.
Yeah.
So working out who you are and what makes you special is one thing, but then also trying to work out who are the patients that you want within your business? Like, have you actually identified who your target demographic is? Because I talk to businesses all the time about this, and you see disconnections between their website, the way their clinic looks, even where they're pricing themselves, the type of language that they're using on your website. It's all mismatched because there's not been a sort of a clear strategy on who it is they're trying to attract into their business. I mean, do you guys spend time going down to that level of granular detail when it comes to, you know, creating that brand for that practitioner or that business?
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely one of the questions that I ask during those discovery calls. Who do you currently see in your business? Like, what is your typical patient? And who do you want? Is that, you know, you'd love to see like a younger demographic coming in? You want to see more of the same? What that kind of journey looks like for you? Because, yeah, it does affect, you know, the kind of imagery that we use, the colour palette even that we use, and, of course, the tone of voice. So not a lot of people know the answer to that. I get a lot of, I want to have more men in the clinic, and that's just not going to be a huge demographic for any clinic across Australia. It's not. We get a lot of, I want really young girls, which is an issue. That's APRA has some thoughts about that, but we know that, you know, the 40 plus women are really going to be your target audience for a multitude of reasons. So we can't have them feel alienated.
That's funny you mentioned that. Last night I was contacted by a journalist, and she said, I'd like to do an article on the boom of men's of aesthetics growing and growing. And I said, sorry, but where's that data from?
Is it actually growing?
Where's the boom?
Yeah.
I'm still seeing roughly 10% of men. You ask any
10 is
injector,
normal.
10 is the most. So from your perspective, it's still 90% women?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah, absolutely.
leaning into, that's probably going to be your core patient.
For sure. We know, I mean, even Joe Hickey, who used to have the Darlinghurst All Saint Clinic, the street back from Oxford Street, the gay capital of Australia, only really saw about 10% men. I mean, it's just not a huge demographic. And when you do see men, most of them are going to be there because their girlfriend, their wife, their partner has recommended it.
It's a great entry point, yeah.
Yeah, so we need to be marketing the men through the women in a way as well. But yeah, all part of the strategy.
What do you think the bottleneck is with men not sort of getting the message? Because, men are going to the gym, they're interested in health and well-being and looking good and fashion. What do you think it is from a marketing perspective that we haven't gotten right with being able to target that male demographic?
I think skin health has increased with men, so more skin treatment, but injectables is still a bit taboo. So maybe in the future they'll warm up as a demographic for our industry. But yeah, we're seeing skin health. So if that's an indicator for where injectables will go, then maybe. It's just a bit taboo, a bit girly,
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think men are open to it, but I still see the industry very much advertised as spa, female, feminine, soft. It all looks... It's not appealing to men, but it's more geared to women. The actual look and feel of the whole thing, the language, even how the pharma companies market, it's generally female images. So it's not that men don't want it, and when they come, they like the results. But yeah, it's that barrier to entry that's still not working. What do you think? You're a man.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think anyone's. I don't think anyone's like cracked the code yet on how to sort of market to them, because I think that men would be amazing customers. They tend to be more brand loyal. They tend to, once they've found somewhere, they're not constantly shopping around. They're just happy to pay the price. They're happy for you to rebook them. Like, in some ways, men are a lot easier to sell to than
I would
women.
imagine so.
So I think that if anyone can crack that code, but I think that it's difficult because it's so skewed towards female, to take the risk on going all in on really going down that path of trying to attract men as your primary client base or patient database is a big risk.
Yeah, we've got 2 clinics that come to mind of our clients who we've taken a more unisex approach, and they also offer things like hair treatment, so hair restoration and things like that as well. So it's still not majority men, but even in the language we use, the imagery we use, there's a lot more men in it for those 2 clients of ours than the rest of them.
Do you think the regenerative space is potentially going to be like the next frontier in terms of how we start to make these treatments more unisex? Because you're now seeing these longevity clinics pop up all over the world. The amount of money that's being dropped into this particular segment of the space is astronomical. So you've got clinics now with, hyperbaric chambers and LED beds, and they're looking at peptides, they're doing aesthetics, they're doing skin treatments, IV drips, all manner of, potential biohacking, regenerative health. Is that kind of, you got your sort of finger on that pulse at the moment and sort of seeing where that's going?
The longevity space isn't something we're super involved with, but I definitely think that is a great starting point for getting men in and then cross-selling them into things like aesthetics. Absolutely.
The gym bros.
Gym bros.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a good angle. I think it's a good thing. I'm still, we did a podcast recently with Dr. Abs and Dr. Ben Coyle. They're very much into, regenerative aesthetics, even though we couldn't quite define what that meant. But, when is aesthetics longevity or anti-aging or biohacking? Like, what are we actually offering people? And I think clinics who want to lean into that, they need to be clear. What are we actually offering? What is real? What is research still? What is aesthetics? Like, they're all blurring each other, but you just don't want to oversell something either.
Yeah, for sure. Because longevity in that regenerative space is still quite in its infancy.
Yeah.
I mean, the aesthetics industry hasn't been around for that long, but the regenerative space within the aesthetics hasn't been around for a couple of years yet.
Yeah.
So we're still figuring that out and where that sits. There are some people who have definitely taken the lead on it. Yeah. So we'll just wait and see what happens.
Yeah. Now, what do you actually think determines what makes a successful clinic right now? I mean, traditionally, I don't know if you agree with this, we had obviously the chain clinics. One of the big drivers was, attractive prices, lots of clinics, so availability, convenience. But has that changed in your experience in the last 5 years? Have the individual clinics sort of got some sort of advantage over that older model?
Yeah, for sure. We definitely, when the big chain clinics came out and we were first introduced to the Australian market, there was definitely like a race to the bottom in terms of price, especially for the medical treatments that we offer. That's kind of subsided now. So those treatments that are kind of too good to be true in terms of price, people are noticing. I think there's been enough negative results, whether it's celebrities in the US or local here, that people are appreciating the idea that you get what you pay for, even with medical treatments. So yeah, I think there's definitely been a shift towards those independent practitioners and businesses. They're happy to pay a little bit more and not have that convenience of space. At the end of the day, it's not a brow wax, it's a medical treatment. So can't be driven by price.
Yeah, I think we covered it on our What's Trending recently. I think patients have become much cleverer, savvier, research focused. They're looking at what's available before they just do a walk-in treatment these days. A walk-in would be far more unusual these days, I would have thought.
Totally. Yeah, especially now with AI.
Yeah.
You know, they can they can come in and sound like they've got a degree just by, you know,
a little bit of research.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
So as businesses grow, potentially when they bring on more service providers into their clinic, they struggle to get those practitioners busy because everyone wants to see, you know, the founder or the primary clinician, you know, nurse, doctor in that space. So how do you kind of start overcoming that and getting patients to see other providers within the space so the founder can actually, you know, look at business growth. Maybe they don't want to be doing as much work anymore in terms of patient-facing treatment. So, you know, how do you kind of do that from a branding perspective?
Yeah, for sure. So this is something that I hear a lot of in those discovery calls. People come and say, okay, I'm ready to hire someone now. I've brought the nurse, injector, doctor in, but no one wants to go with them. They want to stay with me. And I mean, what a compliment to you as a practitioner, right? But at the end of the day, that's not how we grow. So there are ways to compensate with that, and you do it through marketing. So introducing them through social media, websites and everything, and making sure that there's opportunities for that new practitioner or the other practitioners in your business to share their knowledge and who they are and allow people to get a feel for who they are before they book in. Making sure that the experience when they get into the clinic, the consultations, the treatments, whatever, all feel the same as what they've had before with you as a primary practitioner, and making sure that you have demonstrated through social media or website that you trust them. I've mentored them. We've done the same training. We appreciate the same things. Giving your patients or your prospective patients confidence that you trust this person, so you should too.
Yeah, that's a good point. And if the name of your clinic is Dr. David Segal Clinic, change it to something more generic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That'll be a big problem if everything's marketed under your name, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's, you know, I think there's like lots of pieces to this puzzle that can help practitioners. So yes, obviously doing effective marketing. Some of the things I talk to my clients about is potentially looking at increasing their prices. It's kind of quite an unusual concept for some people. They kind of feel that it shouldn't be done within this space. But if you look at, say, I don't know, go to a law firm, you're going to pay X amount of dollars for a senior partner versus a junior associate. It's quite normal to have different
tiered
prices.
pricing.
Yeah, depending on your skill of an experience. So, you know, maybe looking at that, making yourself slightly less available for booking so that patients, you know, are kind of in some ways forced to go in another direction.
Yeah.
You know, bringing these clinicians in and sort of doing warm introductions and getting, you know, people that are quieter to come and assist you on certain days so they start to meet your clients. So if one day they want to get passed off to that new injector, they already have some kind of relationship. So I think it's like a mixture of marketing them effectively and then doing some clever things within your business.
In the clinic.
Yeah, from a business perspective to start shifting that weight of that responsibility from you to other people within your space.
For sure.
How do you deal with that, Jake? I mean, you know, we were talking the other day around the fact that you're almost at the point now where you're too busy and you don't have time to see new patients, but you're kind of, you know, quite set in staying as a solo practitioner.
Well, truthfully, I'd like to do less injecting and more kind of.
You want to hang out with me? You want to hang out with me?
Yeah. No, look, it's a nice problem to have. I think I said that last time. And of course, I can't keep on raising my prices forever. Eventually, everyone will say, no, you're too expensive.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm still limited by my time, let alone getting more patients in. So I have a capacity. I still want that regular balance between my existing patients who are returning for their sort of more simple treatments like regular tox. But if I don't see new patients, then I'm going to eventually kill my business. I still have to keep on growing it and seeing new people, building more custom. But at the same time, if I let in too many new patients and I can't fit in my regulars, that creates a problem as well. So I think, you know, rebookings, get everyone in well ahead of time so no one's stressing that they can't get a slot, recognizing maybe some of the treatments that are not effective or taking too long, or, you know, not resonating with patient, rationalizing my day, I guess. And I don't really have an answer. I'm not going to make another me. I doubt. It's really not my strategy to train a mentee and an apprentice because it's not my business. I don't own my business. More podcasting, I think, is the future.
Well, I think you raise an interesting point. You know what business model you're comfortable with. You've thought about your end goal. You have a strategy. You know that you don't want to exponentially grow. You don't want to become like a multi-clinic owner with hundreds of Jake Juniors running around that you have to manage. So I think that raises an important point, is to actually think about what your business strategy is. Do you want to stay as a solo injector? Do you want to keep your business small, lightweight, not have to worry about managing staff? Do you want to grow it? Do you eventually want to sell it? Do you want to become someone that manages the business and actually push away more and more from clinical treatments? So I think just understanding your business strategy and having some kind of plan can help you go in the right direction. Because I think a lot of people just sort of open their business and then they kind of go, well, maybe I should hire someone else. That sounds like a good idea. And it's kind of all just happening rather than being planned for.
It kind of is. People are stumbling into business ownership. I think it's really easy to start as a solo practitioner, as we said earlier, but then suddenly you've got a team of people. I mean, it happened to me. Suddenly I have a team of 10 and I was like, oh, I don't have any structures. Like, I just kind of fell into this because of demand. And now I personally am trying to retrofit policies and procedures into the business, create some middle management, because it can't be all on me anymore. So I personally experienced this.
Yeah. I think people don't recognize it. As soon as you start hiring people, you've now got a second job.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Whether you like it or not.
That you're not getting paid for.
Yeah. Whether you like it or not.
It must be stressful. I've never had that apprentice person, but not only have you got to train someone, give them all the knowledge and all the trust, but you're not making money whilst you're doing that. So it's like a double whammy.
Yeah.
I mean, you've done it hundreds of times, training new injectors in your old clinics. I mean, like how do you literally do that and justify, we might have to do 6 months before we make any profit on this person.
That was like one of the challenging things towards my tenure with chain clinics, was it was that constant sort of churn of losing injectors, not because it was something that was necessarily a reflection of the way I was running the businesses. It was more that I couldn't offer them the next step in their career. Yeah. Like you, for example, like you came to Australia, no one knew you, you needed to kind of start somewhere, but I knew eventually you were going to go on and do something else. And I didn't have that next step to offer you.
It's just not there.
So then what would happen is, someone would leave, even if
still pod bros.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. But even if that person leaves and does all the right things, you are still going to lose a percentage of your patients, because, patients, and rightly so, have the right to choose who their practitioner is. You can't like hold a gun to their head and make them stay with your business. That's never going to work out well. And so you're constantly having to like go through this life cycle of building up an injector. They reach a point of maturity within your space. They then look for the next step in their career. And then you've kind of almost got to restart over and over again.
Yeah, for sure.
And it becomes tiring, exhausting. It's, feels like you're bashing your head against a wall. Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. So, I mean, I that was one of the reasons in the end why, there was a number of reasons why I decided to sort of leave clinic ownership land. But it was that constant turnover as the market matured, and opportunities that were presented by the likes of the Instant Cosmetics and the Fresh guys, was that I couldn't offer them what they were offering, which was their own business.
Yeah.
But I think that now we're kind of realizing, having your own business is great, but, maybe you don't have to have your own business to be successful. And we've covered this in previous discussions before, is you can make an absolute great income and living for yourself and build wealth long into your retirement through working for somebody else.
Of course.
You don't have to have your own business. And I think that that's kind of something, or maybe that's a marketing thing. We've kind of marketed to our industry that everyone needs to be a business owner.
The entrepreneur kind of idea is so romantic for some people. It looks so interesting until you get into it. I mean, as a business owner myself, I get that a lot from people. Oh, you must travel. It must be so glamorous. You don't see me working 12-hour days. You don't see me crying at the end going like the cash flow is just killing me. But it's great. It's really rewarding, but it's definitely not for everyone. Definitely not for everyone.
Yeah. Now, question about branding. So when you, walk into a clinic or maybe even you go to a website and you're starting to consult with someone, how do you define what their brand is or isn't?
Yeah, for sure. So branding is so much more than a logo. And this is a conversation that I have a lot, because people think I need a logo and something on Canva will do, the whole DIY thing. And
we did that for a while.
Years.
It can be a really cost-effective way to do it, and it can serve you well through the first couple of years. You guys have done it, and it's been eight years. We did it too. We've just launched our rebrand last week, and it did its job in the time, and now we're moving into a different age of the business, and same for you guys in a minute. But for a lot of people, they think it's just a logo, but it branches into every single touch point within the business, online and offline. So the branding needs to ensure that the online and offline experience look the same. I once had a clinic that was really dark and moody once you got into the business, but online it was pink. And I was like, there's not a scrap of pink. There's not a pink cushion in the waiting area. Like, there was no connection between the online and offline experience. So it feels disjointed. And it's that really subconscious elements that patients pick up on. So the tone of voice that we use when we answer the phone versus what we use on social media or treatment descriptions on the website. We're looking at even the fragrance that you use nice and consistently within the clinic.
You're absolutely right. And I think that what maybe if we pinpoint it down to like one word that would describe what you just said, I think it's trust.
Yeah.
As soon as there's a disconnect, the patients either consciously or subconsciously pick up on that disconnect, and then they start going, well, hold on a second, something doesn't feel right here. I've given the example many times before. When you walk into like a high-end store, you buy something that's really expensive, the shop looks amazing, the staff are phenomenal, and then this item that you buy, they put it in bubble wrap and put it in a plastic bag. You'd be like, what the hell? Like, it'd just be like, this isn't in line with the rest of the experience. And I think we can kind of fall into that trap with our clinics. We might do an amazing job on the website, but then, the person turns up at your clinic and the person that's working at the front desk has, lips with their own postcode. They don't talk in the tone of voice. Yep. They're not reflective of the type of person that you're trying to attract into your business. And it's like, hold on a second, like this just doesn't feel right. Like we're really good at, like humans are really good at pattern recognition. And when the pattern feels off, it just, emotionally just sort of makes us go, ooh, this doesn't feel like it should. And then you start using all the logical reasons as to why you shouldn't come back or why you shouldn't go ahead with that signal goes off in our head, and it's just like it's alarm bells.
It's the subconscious. Yeah. And I think a lot of those practitioner owners that we were talking about before, they don't really feel that way. We work with some GPs that are moving into aesthetics, and it's a real problem with some of them as well, because I say, can you just have a different room within the clinic at least? Can you have a different waiting area? Because you're trying to attract patients who are coming in to spend money electively, and they're having to sit next to little Johnny with a cold and someone waiting for a medical certificate. It's not right. And we can make you look amazing online, but once they get there,
that's a great example.
They'll probably just turn around and leave. But if they do proceed with treatment, they're probably not coming back. So those clinical skills are assumed and therefore kind of irrelevant when it comes to running a business, because we need to make sure that we can get people in and give them the opportunity to experience your clinical skills.
Do you guys then, you might meet the founder, Injector, or the owner, and they go, okay, I understand the culture, what branding means, I'm going to do all of that. But then they've got to train the rest of their staff to also do that and present themselves the right way and answer the phone the right way and so on. So you've trained teams. You're also building a culture, not just a brand.
100%.
It's really difficult.
Yeah. Well, we just, before Chloe arrived, we just had that exact conversation with David Motazedi, who's the CEO of Evolus over in California, and we talked about culture. He went as far as to say that culture is actually almost more important than a strategy, because, having the right sort of feeling within your team, all those intangibles, keeping people loyal to your brand, having them stay for long periods of time within your business. You don't do that with a strategy. It's about how you make people feel. And when your team feels a certain way, when the clinic has a certain energy about it, those are the intangibles that the patient picks up on.
Yeah, absolutely. When a clinic has a lot of turnover for practitioners, but even like receptionists, dermal therapists, it's a bit of a red flag.
Yeah.
So absolutely, that should fit into your branding, because finding those people who can replicate and emulate your brand is really important and should be hard to come by. So finding those people, getting them to where they should be to help be your people, and then hanging on to them is really important.
Yeah. I'm sure we've spoken about this before. I think we did it with Rick and a few other people, but building that trust and that brand recognition doesn't start from walking in the clinic. It starts obviously from presumably your online presence, or maybe they come across you on your Instagram. So it's kind of got to dovetail through all of these channels. And you said there's like 7 touch points before they might make the decision to book with you. So again, how do you work with a client to create that overall online and offline strategy? How do you do that?
Yeah, sometimes it is dependent on the clinic. So our strategy for finding that can change. Sometimes people will come to us with a logo and again, they think that that's the brand. So
it's a starting point. Thank you.
It's a starting point, definitely. We know the font and the color. But then we do the work behind the scenes to create the rest of that and kind of fill in the pieces as best we can. Yeah. It's kind of hard to do that when the practitioner or the business owner can't answer the questions of what they want the business to be. So it can be a little bit hard. And again, it's filling in the gaps really. But when we have people who are coming to us for branding before they do the website and the socials and everything, it's much easier. And I always say the branding has to come first because that flows into everything else, the way everything else looks and feels. So that's really our starting point. And my Brookie, our creative lead, who you guys know, she's like psychic when it comes to it. But I mean, she's worked in this industry for a really long time. So she understands what patients want to see and she can just put it down on paper so well.
Be honest, how many of those logos that have been served up to you went, meh, starting again, this makes no sense, the font's terrible, the colour's wrong, why I can't even read it because it's joined up writing?
Yeah, you know what, usually people will hand it to me or during a discovery call, I'll see it on their social media or whatever. And they say, oh, well, I did it on Canva. So when they say that, it's
justifying why it's terrible, basically.
Not terrible, but you know, it's DIY. Yeah. And usually they're opening that up. Exactly. DIY. You guys did the exact same thing. You guys said it was on Canva and that's fantastic. And it served you up until now, but you're here with us because we're looking to the future. Yeah. And so when they kind of give you that explanation around it, it allows me to very politely say, are you ready for a little zhuzh?
Yeah.
A little zhuzh. And I usually
That's code for we're going to change everything. It's shit.
Not necessarily. What I usually say is we'll do two concepts. One can be a more elevated idea of what you've already done and then let's do something a little bit different.
Yeah.
And it's usually the little bit different, the different one that we go with.
It's good diplomacy.
Yeah.
I try to be really polite about it because like you never know if they've done it, the kid's done it or whatever, and they're really proud of it. I've made a couple of,
made people cry, didn't you?
Negative comments in the past without understanding that. But with maturity, we figure out how to use our words better.
You know, it's important to be transparent with people and say, you know what, this does need to change because otherwise you're just going to be treading water doing nothing. So fair enough.
Yeah.
People will put all sorts of money on the table when it comes to their clinic fit out and having their cupboard stocked with the products that they want. But when it comes to things like marketing, I'm sort of yet to come across someone opening a business, or maybe one or two people who have actually planned their marketing strategy and have allocated an amount of money, because I think some of the challenges that people are facing when they come to you crying because their business is failing is that they haven't really thought about this from the beginning, haven't budgeted for it. So rather than spending, $130,000 on, this lavish fit out, maybe it would have been better to do something more modest and put some of those funds toward a sensible, coherent marketing and branding strategy.
Yeah, look, I think there's definitely some people in the industry who, and I think this can be said about all industries, who see marketing as an expense, not an investment. So that attitude needs to change. If you're going to own a proper business that's going to make a good amount of revenue, you need to invest in it. And that goes further than just education and product and fit out. It's also in your marketing. I was told last week that a practitioner had no budget. And I think that was the first time in 8 years that I've heard that.
So what were they calling you for?
No, like unlimited budget.
Oh, unlimited.
Unlimited
I
budget.
thought you said limited.
Yeah.
Oh, no, there was no budget. Just go.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, this is new. I like this. That was really nice.
Chloe's like www.bentley.com.
It was just so refreshing. And I mean, it's going to be really a lot of fun with him. But we know that people have small businesses. I'm a small business owner, so you have to be conscious of cash flow and everything like that. So I don't think that to run a successful business, you need to spend $20,000 a month on ads. There are people that will tell you that. I don't think that's a fact. If you are Laser Clinics Australia or something like that, then maybe. But if you are a solo practitioner who has one location and a couple of days a week that you need to fill, there are things that you can do on the lower side that can be really effective.
Okay. Could you walk us through one of the, like what a typical strategy would look like for that type of scenario? Because I would hazard a guess that that's probably a large cohort of the people that are listening to this
100%.
podcast is small business owners, individual practitioners that are kind of struggling, going, okay, well, how much should I be spending? What does this journey or process actually look like if they were to work with someone like yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So we have a couple of different packages that we offer. And again, it depends on how much content is published on a weekly or a monthly basis. And I will usually make some recommendations based on your capacity and what your goals are in terms of time and speed. So we'll deal with that. But if you want to push your messages out further, in addition to the organic growth, a couple of $100 a week on ads can be amazing. On meta ads, Google, really expensive. Again, you can't use like Botox and things as keywords because it's not compliant, but it's really expensive. So if we focus more on meta, you're more likely to see a result quickly, and we can be really specific with the demographics that we're targeting. So we can be down to 7 kilometers around your area. And again, if you're a solo practitioner with one area, that's perfect. We know from studies that Westfield has done that people for repetitive treatments are only traveling 5 to 10 kilometers. So that's perfect. 7 to 10, great. Lock it in there. Women that are 35 plus, you're going to attract much better people for your target audience that are more likely to come to you and return. People talk about SEO because, again, they've heard someone talk about it. I need that. You're looking at $5,000 a month and you're not going to see any kind of results for 3 months. Not a lot of clinics can afford that. So if you've got $5,000 a month, let's do some ads instead. Let's have a content shoot, a photo shoot, update your headshots and create some authentic videos of you speaking about who you are and why people should come to your business.
So meta ads, presumably you guys do all the nerdy stuff in the back end, actually plugging it in and doing all that stuff. But what does the injector need to do? They need to sit in front of a camera for maybe an hour and capture X amount of bits of content, but they could do it in that hour for the whole month, right? They don't need to be recording every day. I think people get stressed out about, content and what do I do and how do I plan it and how often do I need to do this? But if you plan it and just choose, 10 simple questions that you answer for your audience with, you could even do it on an iPhone and just make it look pretty. That's good enough, right? Yeah,
absolutely. As long as you've got the right equipment like this, it doesn't have to be a huge investment of time or money. Having the proper lighting, a microphone to speak into to make sure it's good quality, that's really all you need to do. And you can get good microphones like lapel mics at Kmart. It's not a lot.
Yeah.
But sitting down and making sure that we've got a couple of, like an hour's worth, a couple of videos that you're happy with, and we can use that for the whole month. We have content creators around the country. So even if we're not there, we get content creators who have a really good brief, the content creator, and you have a really good brief of what we're going to say. Do not say this, just to make sure we can actually use the video. And away you go. So if you're not confident in using a camera, because some people aren't, then we can come in and do it for you. 2 hours, done.
I was going to say, so you guys provide that service as well? You can do the videography and everything?
I mean, not in some really remote parts of Australia, probably not, but people. Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then what actually happens in the meta ads? What are you guys doing? You're filtering down to like a geolocation.
Yeah, for sure.
But then how are you finding the right audience? Like, is it just age? Sex, like what other parameters can you target?
You can be really specific. So if you actually have an existing database that you want to remarket to, like I haven't seen this list of people, we can actually upload that to Meta and remarket to them to get them back into the clinic.
Right.
So we can be really in depth with a handful of people, but we know the demographics from the target audiences that you're wanting to attract. So we can be specific in terms of like if they've engaged with something related to skincare or something like that. I like to be a bit broader than that because that can be really narrowing.
Yep.
But even just gender, age and location, try it for a week or two, see what the results are like and adjust your strategy.
Great.
Yeah. So what would the starting point be in terms of a budget, do you think, for someone to kind of get started on a sort of monthly basis to sort of get good traction? And I know there might be some, varying factors depending on where they're located, but like if it's like an average client.
With us?
Yeah.
$2,500 would be amazing.
Per month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's organic content creation and some ads. Perfect.
Okay, so I reckon if a new clinic started with at least a 6-month strategy of doing that consistently, it'd be unusual to not start seeing some traction, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, I think it sounds simple when you say it, But I think that sometimes we need to have these sorts of discussions to kind of really just lay it out step by step, make people realize it's not this, big scary thing you need to drop hundreds of thousands of dollars into. It's just about starting from the beginning with the right strategy, actually having a strategy, creating your brand and having some sort of thought process around who are the target patients that you're trying to bring into your business, working with a competent agency, being proactive ahead of time. Don't just open your doors and then all of a sudden realize, holy moly, I have no patients. You actually need to start this ahead of time.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
for what, $2,500 a month, what's that, like $25,000 a year? It's not really much in the scheme of things when you look at how much money people will spend on fit outs.
In comparison, it's really not. But I mean, otherwise go with word of mouth and cap your growth at 8% a year.
Yeah.
That's the alternative.
Yeah.
But also the way I think of that maths is, okay, 25 grand, if you get, 50 patients over a whole year, like that's paid off already. I mean, if the average spend is like $500,
Which is very normal.
very normal and very achievable, more to the point. So
Yeah.
I think it pays for itself, but it just sounds a lot when you just say $25,000.
Yeah.
Especially when you're starting off, right?
Yeah. But it seems achievable.
Yeah.
So apart from money, what's the biggest barrier to why people are resistant to working with marketers or brand builders? Like what excuses do you hear?
That DIY is enough.
Right.
Yeah. So we find that we don't really have competitors in this space because we've been doing it for such a long time. And I mean, talk about a hyper niche industry to be part of. But our biggest competitor is actually people doing it themselves. You can kind of tell when someone's doing it themselves, and it can create a bit of an issue because when things, again, don't look cohesive, it doesn't look 100% legit sometimes. People's red flags go off when fonts don't match because, again, as David said, the brain likes patterns. They like to see the same thing subconsciously over and over again. So when things don't match, when we're trying to react and hop on trends and stuff that doesn't exactly match the elevated brand we've created, it looks and feels disjointed.
Yeah.
And that can start to affect credibility.
Yeah. Those damn doctors, they won't listen.
Yes. Yeah. So we see like they do it or, the kids doing it and they love it. So we're just going to leave it there. And I'm like, oh, but the muscle relaxing injections you're referring to. Yeah. So that tends to be an issue for us sometimes. But
Yeah. I mean, you talked about a word of mouth business, and I think that's important, but I see that as a long-term play.
Yeah.
I kind of see it as different stages. So when you're just starting your business or your business is in your infancy, obviously external marketing and bringing in new people is like paramount because you're starting from nothing.
absolutely.
But if you start with the right strategy, get the right team on board, you build your client database, and then it's a matter of how do you retain them in your business. If you're doing a great job, they'll refer their family and their friends. And so if you're kind of combining, like I see the external marketing is like the starter engine to your car.
Yeah.
Really important to get you going. If you're doing your business correctly, then it starts to become a shift towards referral, holding on to your patients, and then using a marketing company to keep topping things up because you will get some patient attrition over time. They move away.
Yeah, for sure.
You increase your prices, they can't afford you anymore. You now need to start maybe gearing towards a different segment of the market. So I think it's sort of all this big sort of pie that all fits together.
Yeah,
That you can't have one without the other, and just opening your doors and thinking that you're just going to rely on word of mouth referrals when you're starting from nothing is not really realistic, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, for sure. So word of mouth we know is really like that has the highest conversion rate. We listen to our friends, we trust our family for their opinion. So it is amazing and we can't downplay that, but it's slow. And again, being in this industry, it's a little bit taboo still for some people. So people aren't super willing to talk about what they've had done and where they go and everything like that. So it's not as straightforward as if you were saying, like, where did you get your nails done?
Yeah.
That's easy. There's no shame in that. Yeah, so it's a little bit hard. But for our medical treatments, tox and filler, tox, you're maybe going to see that same patient in there with 100% retention every 3 to 4 months. Filler maybe once a year. So you're constantly having to get new people in, and word of mouth isn't going to deliver that because no one's referring people at that kind of rate to keep you even semi-booked out. So there has to be something else that we can leverage to help bring people into the business. So even if you just look at the retention rate of time, then it's a bit of an issue.
Cool. So I guess to summarize our conversation, if injectors were listening to this and they're in their car and they're like, oh my God, I'm doing nothing, I'm doing it all myself, I need help. What's the one thing that they could do today, apart from calling you?
I was about to say, call me.
But we will put your details at the bottom of the podcast description. But yeah, what can they tangibly do that's going to reconfigure their strategy and make them think differently about what they've currently been doing?
I think it's really important for practitioners to have even sometimes a bird's eye view of the business, because when you're in it, when you're working in the business, it's really hard to look at that. We need to be working on the business and have a look at all the different touch points that people are experiencing before they meet you in person. I think it's really easy for practitioners to know who they are. I'm great, so everyone else must know that I'm great, to the point that I see about me sections on social media and websites. You haven't even said your name.
Yes.
I don't know your name.
And another thing that I noticed, you go to their Instagram and it either doesn't have their name or even their location.
Oh my God, the location. Where are you?
So you're like, who is this person?
Where are you? But how can I trust you? First of all, I can't, double check your APRA number if I don't know who you are. Mm-hmm. So that's an issue. But how can I bond with you and try to like you if I don't know the one basic thing about who you are, your name?
Yeah. It's interesting talking about assumptions, Jake and I, in the process of launching our app. And we've got a whole lot of beta testers who are in there at the moment who are part of our existing community. And we're going, why aren't people sort of posting stuff and why aren't people getting notifications? And we just realized yesterday that we hadn't given people the link to download the app. So people are on their desktops. And we just made that assumption that we thought, people have downloaded the app, but they hadn't. So people make stupid mistakes all the time, even us.
Assumption is the mother of all fuck-ups.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. You need to go right back to the beginning. If I know nothing about clinical, about the brand as a consumer, what would I need to know? Please put your name in your bio, in your About Me section on your website. I mean, if you're in Australia, you have to have your APRA number there anyway, but please introduce yourself properly.
Yeah, exactly.
Bare minimum.
And if people are wondering, why didn't they actually talk about strategy of social media? We're going to get you back, aren't we? We're going to talk about this stuff in a future episode.
You say you will, so we'll see. We'll see.
Now, final question. If we had to look into the future 5 years from now, how do you think people are going to be marketing their businesses in this space?
I mean, hopefully from a brand perspective and not a practitioner individual perspective. I think, again, having that more bird's eye view on the business and catering your marketing to what a consumer needs to know and understand. Hopefully that's where we're going.
Someone taught me once to sanity check what you really think you're putting out. Get some lay people to read your website, not you, because you think it's the assumption thing again.
Yep.
But get some, your mum or your dad, someone who's not an esthetician to actually read it. And does this make sense? Do you know where to go? Do you know where to book? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was redoing a doctor's website and he had written the copy, which red flagged for the beginning. Doctors are they're doctors, right? They get into
Shout
the
out
details.
The doctors.
You've seen our marketing deck that Jake.
There's a lot of words.
She's still reading it.
Still reading it.
Hey, I'm detail orientated. It's fine.
Yeah, but they're talking about the wavelengths in the chromophores and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, this is not a clinical study. This is your website for consumers. I appreciate that because I've worked with, devices for a really long time, but that's not what Sally from the dog park needs to know to book.
Yeah.
Dumb it down.
Fair enough. I think that was a good summary of people understanding their why, a bit about branding, who you are, what message you want to put out to the world, and a bit about marketing.
Yeah, and also to give you an idea about what you should spend and where to start.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your time. It's great to do an in-person podcast.
Yes.
As we said, all the details on how to get in touch with you, Chloe, and the Aesthetic Collective will be in the show notes. Thanks for your time.
As well as our new app.
Ah, yes.
So you can join our wait list down below as well. Get your name down. It will be very exciting when we launch.
Yeah.
And we promise you there'll be a lot of free stuff. So even if you don't pay us anything, there'll be something for you to access on our new app, IA Community. Thanks again, Chloe.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed that episode, guys. To stay up to date with our latest news and episodes, follow us on Instagram, and we're now on TikTok.
You can also now watch our full video episodes on YouTube and Spotify. So if you like what we do, please give us a like and subscribe. Please also consider joining our Patreon for invaluable business and injectable education. Get access to our global community of like-minded professionals, hints and tips videos, bonus podcast content, and more.
All of our social links, Patreon, and contact information are in the show notes below, and we'll see you in the next episode.